Welcome to Gypsy Medic. I just bought a 2022 Kawasaki KLR650. I just want to go over my first impressions on this bike, which are really good. And if you like what you see, I just ask that you like and subscribe. This is my brand new 2022 Kawasaki KLR650. I bought it the end of last week. I've had it here 3 days, but I've been working, so I haven't had a chance to even really look at it. The only thing I did was when the dealership dropped it off, I drove it up the road to the corner of the block and back just to make sure it started and ran. Otherwise, the only other thing I've really done is my Mickey Mouse sticker. Other than that, it's been sitting in the garage. So I thought I'd do a little first look at it right now. So this is the base model KLR, non-ABS. It does not have the touring bags or the back case on it. As you can see, it's a good looking bike. This is a tan one. I thought about getting the orange or rust colored one. I really like the looks of that one, and I thought it might be a little more visible when I was out riding, but I also figured that this is an enduro bike, an adventure bike. It's gonna get scratched up. I'm gonna drop it. I'm going to end up with some tree branches across it at some point. And I really thought that orange would show up more with scratches than this sand, sage, whatever color this is. I like it. I like the bike a lot. It fits very well. It's a very smooth feeling bike when you sit on it. It's got adjustable rear shock. It's got disc brakes front and back. It is a 5-speed. 1 down, 4 up. It only has a side kickstand. There is a center stand that you can get for it aftermarket, and that's one of the things I plan on doing with it. It's got a pretty decent set of tires on it. It is water cooled. It's got LED brake lights, LED turn signals, and incandescent headlights to it. One of the differences with the other models that I had looked at getting, the upper model, was the fact that it had a engine guard already on it and some lights, auxiliary lights. It's $1,000 more, and what I looked at was adding the side packs to it with the brackets, an engine guard that I was going to have to do anyways, and auxiliary lights. Instead of $1,000, I could do all of that for about $450. And so I decided to stick with this one. I'm not a huge fan of the camo color either that those come in. It's just personal taste. 650 cc's, single cylinder, what they call a thumper, right? Because it's just one big piston and it thumps. And that's one of the complaints people have about these motors, is that they tend to vibrate a little bit at highway speed. I don't see it as a big deal personally. I had a Honda XL600 once before. I enjoyed it. It is what it is. It's, if I want to be on my Nomad 1600 for a 6-hour trip, then I'll be on my Nomad. If I want to be out on this for 3 or 4 hours, hit some dirt roads on the way, then I will do that. Fuel injection, that's one of the improvements for this year. One of the things that people add to these bikes a lot is a cover over this brake cylinder. My bike's got one, so I don't quite understand why people are talking about adding that to their bikes. Some of the things that I'm going to do to this: I'm going to buy bark busters for the ends of the handlebars to help protect my hands, as well as to protect the bike when I inevitably dump it. I'm going to get some different mirrors that are a little bit stronger. I'm buying a set of double take mirrors for it, which are based on ram mounts, and they've got a lifetime warranty. I'm going to put a rack here on the back, probably something like a Pelican case. I'm going to do racks on the side. I'm thinking Pelican case for that as well. A set of LED lights that I'll probably pick up on Amazon someplace for 50 to 100 bucks. I have already ordered the USB ports for it that come on the Adventure model, which is that top end model. So let's sit on it. It has a LED dash. The one thing this bike does not have is a tachometer, and some people complain about that. I don't think it's that big a deal. I think I ride by feel. I have very rarely ever shifted based on my tachometer. So as you can see, this has a neutral light, check engine light, speedometer. It's got a fuel gauge and a clock, which I have to set. It has 1 mile on it. This spot right here is for a light switch, which the adventure models come with. This is for a USB port, and over here is for a cigarette lighting, cigarette lighter for accessories. This is a bar to mount things on, like phone mounts, GPSs. Overall, I like this bike a lot. I'm gonna fire it up. You can listen to it. Now it's 45 degrees out. I have not run this bike in 3 days, right? And it's only been started a couple of times total. So that's not too bad. I'm pretty impressed by that. It does have these cheap flimsy hand guards, which are okay to keep your hands warm, but they're certainly not going to protect you from tree branches and limbs. I also think that these flat areas on both sides are going to be fairly handy for either accessories or switches, extra USB plugs for cameras, plugging in, things like that. So I'm very excited about this bike. It's got a 6.2 gallon gas tank, and people are getting between 280 and 300 miles out of it. So that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to my first ride tomorrow. It's supposed to be almost 60 here in New Hampshire. It is the middle of March, so it's not great riding time. But again, it's supposed to be almost 60, and I'm going to ride to my son and daughter-in-law's, which is about an hour and 15-minute ride. I plan to film it, have my GoPro on with me, and I'll take you along for my first ever ride on my new KLR. So one of the other things that folks tend to do on these as far as mods is this engine guard is kind of a hard plastic, so they put a metal one on. I've already ordered a new shifter. This shifter folds in, that's very nice, but it's kind of short, and people have trouble getting riding boots in underneath the shifter, and if you lift it up at all, then it hits this. So I think it's a Tusk shifter. It's about 10 millimeters longer, and it comes out a little farther so you can get your foot in underneath it. Some people change out the front sprocket so you can get either a little more power at low end or a little less vibration at high end. I'll have to see what happens with that. So this is my feelings on this bike. I'm super impressed. I like this thing a lot. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. As I said at one point, I used to have an Enduro. I had a 1986 Honda XL600R. And I know what these bikes are. I didn't buy this to be a motocross bike. One of the complaints is it's heavy. I know it's heavy. An XL600 was heavy. I knew I didn't want to ride that in a sand pit. I knew I didn't want to spend a lot of time doing technical stuff with it. Single track. That's not why I bought this. I want to be able to do some roads, to get to some dirt roads, to get to some backwoods, and to have some fun. If I was looking for something more technical, more off-road, more high-speed power, I'd buy a smaller bike. You know, I've got this 200 Lifan, and it's underpowered by a lot, but it's a ton of fun. If I wanted something for that next step up, I'd go with that 300, that 400 size. Hell, maybe even a motocross bike, but I didn't. This is what I wanted. And so now we're going to look at some numbers here. So on the left, I compared all these as base models because this is what I bought. I bought the 2022 KLR650 base. It's fuel injected. It's liquid cooled. It's 5-speed. It's got disc brakes front and back. 6.1 gallons of gas. Kicks every other similar bike's ass on that, okay? Two colors, pearl sand khaki or pearl lava orange. And yes, it's 460 pounds. And we compare that to the Suzuki and the Honda, which are both 650s. They're both carbureted. They're both air-cooled. They are both 5-speed. Nobody's complaining about these being a 5-speed. There's been a lot of complaints that if Kawasaki redid this KLR, they should have made it a 6-speed and given that first speed a little bit more low-end torque. Nobody complains about these other two, though. And 3.4 gallons versus 2.8. There's no comparison there. And yes, they weigh less, 366 pounds, 346 pounds. But my Kawasaki has a nice fairing. It's got a nice windshield. It's got a bigger gas tank. Of course it's going to be heavier. You know, if I'm going to go 300 miles on a ride between fuel ups, let's talk about power to weight. That's one of the big complaints. They could have made it more powerful. Because it's heavier, it's got less power to poundage. Well, guess what? At 150 miles, you can stop and get fuel. I'll get it at 300. Turtle in the hair, I'm going to beat you to the end every time. And I'm super happy with that. And now we look at the price. And now we look at the price of these bikes. And you can see my Kawasaki's cheaper. These are MSRPs from the website of the dealership I bought them from. And they carry all these bikes. So 200 cheaper, almost 200 cheaper than the Suzuki. And 350 cheaper than the Honda XR. It's a no-brainer. Price value point is phenomenal. Now let's compare this to some of the bigger bikes that people say, oh, well, if you want this kind of bike, you should be looking at, an Africa Twin. Well, yeah, the Africa Twin and the Teneres are both fuel injected, both liquid cooled. Yes, they have 6 speeds. They both have disc brakes front and rear. And again, I have more gas. And they are as heavy or heavier. Yes, one's a 700 and one's 1,084 cc's. But look at the price. It's not even close. I mean, the Africa Twin is more than twice as much money. This is exactly the price point I wanted to be at. And I felt that it was more bang for the buck. When I compared it to the Honda and the Suzuki, I sat on both of those. The seats are narrower. The bike is smaller feeling. This Kawasaki is far more comfortable to sit on, and I think it's going to be far more comfortable to ride. So again, I'm super happy with this choice, and I think that anybody who's looking for an entry-level bike, you're going to be very happy with this. Yeah, if you want to go do Russia after the war ends and you want to do long way around, then sure, maybe the Africa Twin's a better bet. But this bike is, I'm super happy with this. I don't see how anybody could go wrong with this bike. Now, I have taken it for one ride. My first ride was about 140 miles, and unfortunately, I had some camera issues with it, so I don't have that on film. But I'll get some footage down for you of the ride and actually how it's performing and what my thoughts are actually behind the handlebars on it. And I think the last thing for this that I'll touch on and close with is just what did I pay for this bike? So post-COVID now, there are no deals. There's no dickering. You pay MSRP plus. Like I just bought a new Hyundai and I paid MSRP plus $2,000 daily adjusted rate, plus fees, plus delivery. So this bike, $66.99 was the MSRP, and I paid $1,350 extra for a 5-year full warranty on it. And then the Kawasaki delivery fees and the dealership assembly fees and paperwork fees were an extra $925. So all told, I paid $89.74 for this bike. Those fees are going to be the same regardless of what bike you buy. So that's not Kawasaki specific. You'd have to tack on that extra money for every other bike that you bought as well. So Again, super happy. I'm very excited to be taking this on some adventures this spring and summer, some moto camping and some trail riding, and bringing you some of that. So take care, good luck, and I'll see you soon.